You know them as the Morning Insiders, but today, Lauren Victory and Tim McNicholas switch gears to become the Money Insiders. Thanks for joining us here on CBSN Chicago. I'm Audrina Begas. With everything shifting online, consumer issues are popping up more than ever. That's why we're here to help. CBS 2 has been digging into these issues all year long, keeping an eye on deals that seem too good to be true and showing you what to watch out for. COVID-19 is changing how we shop, consume, and bank. But regardless of whether you leave the house, hackers can still find a way, even if it's through something you think is safe. For instance, one of the most downloaded banking apps of last year, the online-only bank Chime, appears to have a bit of a problem. Many users report their accounts getting hacked. Some say they were wiped completely. One of those victims from Mount Prospect reached out to CBS 2's Lauren Victory. Here's his desperate plea to help others.
Jordy Como used to fly the friendly skies.
Super frustrating.
Now the United Airlines flight attendant is stuck in the cruel world below.
And I'm usually a really positive and happy-go-lucky person.
He first talked to CBS 2 in September.
I'm not going to lie to you. This month has been a really rough month.
Not expecting things would get so much worse. The furloughs he feared and fought against happened. Bills piled up.
I'm pretty much days away from my car being repossessed.
Then a kick while he's already down. Como received this strange text message, a security code for his online banking account with Chime.
I thought, well, this is odd because I'm not trying to access my account. It freaked me out.
Panic really set in when he checked his transfer tab.
The name was John Clark. Someone I have no idea who they are.
More than $1,200 gone in an instant. The money was actually back pay from United. It recently came in thanks to the latest COVID relief bill.
It's like, how many more hits can a person take?
Complaints on Chime's Better Business Bureau page show he's not alone. My account was wiped out. I've had money stolen from my Chime account. My account was somehow hacked. Someone fraud my account. Chime even alludes to problems on its own social media, responding to a tweet with fake account names. Thanks for chiming in to help us catch the scammers.
Without a doubt, there's no way they are unaware of this occurring.
Yet the company tells Como not fraud, but an error occurred. He magically got his money back hours after CBS 2 got involved. Relieved, but confused.
Somehow, someone got into my account without that security code that was texted to me.
Who is John, and what's being done about him? Lauren Victory, CBS 2 News.
CBS 2 asked Chime if it is investigating security issues with its two-factor authentication system. The company wouldn't provide specifics, but did confirm it is aware of rising fraud throughout the banking industry. It's important you are also aware of this. A Kendall County woman says someone hacked into her bank account and used the Zelle app to steal thousands. It took some digging and several phone calls, but our Tim McNicholas was able to find results.
Allison Sempt has a mess on her hands.
I'm always one that cleans obsessively when I'm stressed out.
That stress started in late November when she discovered someone had used the payment app Zelle to transfer $2,000 out of her Fifth Third bank account.
If I could find this person, I would show them my children and say this is who you're stealing from. This is who you're taking money from.
She filed a fraud claim, but Fifth Third said the transaction appears valid and they won't refund her, even though the recipient had a phone number with a California area code.
I don't know anybody there. I have called Zelle, I don't know, probably 20 times and cannot get in contact with the person, but Fifth Third just keeps telling me, please call Zelle, please call Zelle.
She did get a response when she Facebook messaged Zelle from someone saying they'd look into it. But then when she tried to follow up, she suddenly couldn't message them, and she's somehow blocked from commenting on their posts.
Talk to me. Please just let me talk to you. Tell this story and give me some sort of answer.
Story after story of people struggling to get banks to credit them after scammers use Zelle to transfer money out of their accounts. One Bank of America customer hired a computer expert to prove it was a hacker who sent the money. But federal law says when it comes to fraud, the burden of proof should be on the banks.
I feel like I've probably done more investigating than their investigators have done.
One of the two transfers from Semp's account was linked to an iu.edu email address. Indiana University confirmed it's registered to a student, but it's not clear whether that student committed fraud or if their email was somehow hacked. There are no Hoosiers in Semp's family.
I thought my bank was going to protect me. Like, that's what I thought, like, your bank does.
And to make matters messier, she got a notification from Fifth Third that someone had changed her phone number on file. Still, not enough to convince the bank it wasn't her. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
And good news, just a day after we reached out to the bank, it sped up the investigation, which found fraud. And Allison, she finally got her money back. So what happens if you ditch the banking apps and opt for something else, like gift cards? Turns out it could still cost you somewhere in the ballpark of $11,000. That's how much scammers stole from a senior citizen, all through phony gift cards. Now he's sharing his story to prevent others from falling for a similar scheme.
I was very embarrassed by it.
22 gift cards scattered on the McNeil's table, but there's nothing they can do with them.
I'd hate to use the term gullible, but I guess in this case I certainly was.
It all started when Mick McNeil got an email, apparently from Amazon, saying someone bought a $1,000 TV using his account. He called the number on the email to say it wasn't him and was connected to a John with the fraud department.
He said, your system, you got hacked. He goes, somebody got into your identity.
John convinced Mick to drive to Target and buy several gift cards, then read the numbers off the back.
And he goes, for which you'll be reimbursed. That's how we track these hackers. He didn't really exactly explain, and I'm like, he's the fraud guy from Amazon. I'm not.
5 hours and 4 stores later, Mick had bought more than $11,000 worth of gift cards. He even got a phony invoice saying they'd pay him back. What was it that was so convincing about these people?
I think it was partly just his manner of speaking. I mean, they were on my side, you know. So that's what it felt like.
After a while, Mick says he felt like he was on a mission to wipe the problem out, to avoid becoming an identity theft victim. He was so in the zone, his family couldn't get a hold of him.
And I said, well, he has OnStar. Let me call them.
Linda McNeil says it could have been even worse, but through OnStar, she was able to make an emergency call to the car.
And he said, he's got me on the phone. I've been buying gift cards all day. The minute I heard gift cards, I said, get home, you've been hacked.
This is a huge problem. Billions of dollars are being lost.
William Cressy, also known as Professor Fraud, says scammers like gift cards because they're almost untraceable.
They want to keep you on the hook and keep the scam going as long as they can and get you to keep buying up those gift cards at the various retailers, not in a large enough number to cause the retailer to warn you that you're being scammed.
Phone number not found.
We tried calling the two numbers that Mick talked to the scammers on. Both seemed to be disconnected already, just days after the scam.
The biggest thing I felt was that I had betrayed my wife. You know, that I spent a lot of money on something that didn't help either of us.
Fraud experts say anytime someone asks for payment in the form of gift cards, it's always a scam. A lesson Mick learned the hard way. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
After looking into this some more, we found the scammers made that initial email look like it came from Amazon, but it, of course, did not. The McNeils tried to see if their bank could cancel those charges, but sadly they couldn't since they were the people who bought the cards. Now to a scam in the suburbs that proves fraudsters are everywhere, even posing as legitimate help. We've been on the trail of some supposed contractors for months. We've talked to victim after victim. The MO is the same. The crew takes the money and takes off without doing the job. And now police have caught and arrested 2 people in connection with the ring. Here's Tim McNicholas with the story.
And you rob us. And it does hurt.
You shouldn't be able to look at yourselves in the mirror every day and know that you're scamming people.
I feel taken advantage of.
We lost $9,000.
These 4 people have something in common. They're each out thousands of dollars, lost to contractors who collected the cash and then disappeared. We know of multiple victims in Chicago, as far south as Crete, and up north in Glencoe and Libertyville.
It's a huge relief. I told my husband it made my year.
Danielle Crocker and her husband Terrence paid the so-called urban construction group $6,000. The contractors barely did any work at their house in Crete and then disappeared.
As you can see in my background, the wall is still, we're still waiting on a contractor to get the wall done.
Now police arrested 2 people for similar crimes in Glencoe and Libertyville. The Crockers and others say the suspects are the same ones who allegedly scammed them. Victims say that's Justin Ephraim on the left, and we've learned that's Jorge Molina on the right.
A homeowner ghosted by her contractor.
The guys we've been reporting on for months. The arrest warrant for Molina accuses him of taking $10,000 from a Libertyville homeowner for repair work he never intended to perform.
And it makes me feel, gives me some peace to know that these individuals have been stopped and they will not be able to do what they have done to me and so many others.
The Yelp page for urban construction curiously says temporarily closed until January 2022. I called the number to see what they'd say, and whoever answered lashed out and said we've ruined their lives with lies.
They're all lying. Well, you really think they all just happen to make this up? All right, you're hanging up on me now.
The group used to go by the name of Riverside Roofing and Masonry. They claimed to be based at this building with medical and legal offices. No contractors in sight. We also texted Justin's number for his side of the story. The answer? They're still locked up. Ask Cook County Jail. We did. Jorge Molina was behind bars until February 4th. He's out now. No info on Justin Ephraim at the moment. In the meantime, take a close look at these photos in case they come knocking at your door, offering to do construction work for you. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
We know this crew is being investigated in multiple counties for similar crimes. At this point, we know the charges involve cases in Glencoe and Libertyville. We'll stay on top of it. New cabinets, new paint, a whole new house, but a town rule stopped their move before it could even start.
The growing town of Chesterton, Indiana. Sarah and John Deal wanted in.
It's the house that I've always wanted.
They hired Steiner Homes to build from scratch on 30-plus acres.
The appliances are in, the internet's in, 100% finished.
And 100% empty, as you can see, since October. The town won't sign off on an occupancy permit.
Everything we need to move in is there, except for apparently a sidewalk out front.
The missing walkway wasn't exactly an oversight. Steiner Homes asked the town to waive its sidewalk requirement, but Chesterton said no.
Has there been any other towns that you've been granted a sidewalk waiver?
I cannot think of one.
Builder Dan Steiner explains he thought the situation would be different because this area is protected wetlands. Plus, the path wouldn't connect to anything.
I just really honestly didn't believe that we would be asked to put sidewalks in that kind of lead nowhere.
The one he had to pour on the north side of the property also just ends.
It really is a small island of sidewalk.
But town officials are adamant. No deal for the deals until Steiner Homes at least guarantees they'll construct the full sidewalk by signing a letter of credit. The builder hasn't done that for months.
It's chaos,
says Sarah, of life with 3 kids under 4, first in their camper and now in an apartment. They sold their other home, not thinking their complications with concrete and Steiner Homes would drag on.
I just don't think there's a sense of urgency as much on their end.
Until now.
I probably should have done it a while back.
Cameras rolling. This builder made a promise.
We're moving ahead, doing a letter of credit, so they can move in.
In Northwest Indiana, Lauren Victory, CBS 2 News.
Steiner also promised to cover the cost of the sidewalks, which, because of the wetlands, could be thousands of dollars more than usual. Now we turn to South Suburban Markham, where a woman says she paid in full for a project and was left empty-handed. Now she's so furious about a mega home improvement company that left her hanging. Lauren Victory explains why her project is no longer on the fence.
Happy birthday to you.
Kane is already king of the house.
I'm new to this grandpuppy thing, but I've fallen in love with him.
Now Grandma wants to give him the royal treatment in her yard.
I thought it would have been so pretty.
A white vinyl fence would also spruce up Crystal Randall's barbecues and fish fries.
It's security.
It's security.
Privacy.
Yes.
And it sounded fancy.
Yeah. I thought it was gorgeous. I was so disappointed, though.
You see, Randall hired Home Depot to build the 6-foot-high barrier in October. Home Depot passed the job along to its contractor, Peerless Fence Group.
He came and measured everything, wrote everything down, and then gave me a price.
And charged her Home Depot credit card on the spot.
A total of $10,399.
Paying in full ahead of a job is something the Illinois Attorney General advises against. Nevertheless, Peerless tells us Home Depot requires them to collect 100% up front. But what about this other request, that the homeowner get Peerless a permit?
I've had windows, roofs done on the home. They've all obtained their own permit. I've never had to do that, but fine, I wanted the fence.
Her trip to Markham Village Hall didn't go well.
They haven't registered with the city of Markham for over a year. Their bonding, licensure, and liability has also expired.
Peerless acknowledges the lapse, telling us it doesn't do much business in Markham. A company administrator shared an email chain showing their attempts to update village paperwork took weeks.
Because in the meantime, I'm still getting invoices from Home Depot to pay on this fence that I don't have.
Randall wants the whole job canceled and a refund on her Home Depot credit card.
Nobody called me from corporate. I sent certified letters letting them know my situation. No response.
Looks like the one getting the runaround isn't Kane. In Markham, Lauren Victory, CBS 2 News.
After CBS 2 got in touch with Peerless Fence, the company called Randall and offered her a full refund. Home Depot confirms it requires customers to pay its contractors in full before any work is done, but did not explain why. Pay first policies like what you just heard about are becoming more common, but there are some things you can do to avoid getting stuck with a bill. Lauren Victory sat down with President and CEO of Chicago's Better Business Bureau, Steve Burness. Here's his best tip-offs to avoid getting ripped off.
We are often approached by viewers who feel that they've been duped because they paid a contractor in full upfront and then the work is never done. But in the same vein, we've also been able to confirm that a big company like Home Depot, for example, that is their policy to get paid upfront before their subcontractors do the work. So what's your advice for people that don't really know what to do in those sorts of situations?
The Better Business Bureau always recommends a third down and third in middle and a third at the end. But unfortunately, some organizations, that's not their policy, including the organization you just mentioned and others. So you really have to trust the organization and do your due diligence on them and make sure they're reputable and really go over the policies in the contract. What happens if that subcontractor that they hire doesn't perform? What is your escape clause and what other information you need to know? The majority of the contractors will deal with you directly. We'll do the third in the middle, a third at the beginning, third in the middle, and third at the end. And that's typically what is done. But some companies have policies, and up to you as a consumer if you agree to that, or if you feel that's not in your best interest, you're able to go to somebody else and deal with somebody else. But it's really determining if that person, that organization is ethical and trustworthy in order to do business with them.
Now that we're in, the throes of winter, what sort of cold weather scams are you seeing?
Well, as the Arctic air hits us, there'll be a lot of cold weather type scams that happens every single year, especially during the first deep freeze. You'll have people going door to door asking to look at your heater to give you that preventative maintenance to look at it. They happen to be in the neighborhood. And they come in, they take it apart, and they say they can fix it. You have to give them cash only. And sometimes they break things when they're taking it apart, and sometimes you give them cash and they're never back. So the key is that anybody knocks at your door, you do not do business with them because you want to do research on them. I don't care, who they say they are. You still want to do the research on them to make sure they're a legitimate business and never pay cash. So the door-to-door people always concern us. And then you got the frozen pipes. You've got so many other issues, the ice dams on your house and things of that nature. So people will be coming, to your neighborhood, or you may just open a phone book up and pick the the largest ad or any ad, because when people are busy in this time of year, and especially those types of industries, they're going to be hard to get. So that's why people always tend to go with anybody who comes to their door or who anybody answers their phone. So you just got to do your background check on them, especially anything to do with the house related. And you always want to get 3 different estimates. You just don't get the person that knocks at your door, because you still have to do the research on them with the Better Business Bureau and other sources. But again, just coming to your door, knocking at them, don't let them in your house. We hear reports also of fake utility workers. We've done numerous stories with ComEd in the educational component, where we try to educate consumers and businesses that the utility companies do not come, need access to your house and take you downstairs or take you outside. And basically what happens, another person comes in and starts robbing your house. So if somebody appears at your house, you can do your check on them, make sure that you know who they are, call the utility company directly and make sure that they're supposed to be in that area at your house, and call the number not the number they give you, because it could be fraudulent and fake.
Another story that we run into every now and then, it involves Airbnb or VRBO, where people have a problem where they want to get a refund for a trip that never happened. And we're finding that these companies are often telling you to go to the person that you rented the house from. What's your recommendation there?
Yeah, so you have to read the contract you're getting involved with. Most consumers, when they go to VRBO or Airbnb, they think they're dealing with them directly, but you're actually dealing with the property management or the property owner themselves. And they're the ones that have the contract and have the inclusions and exclusions as well. A lot of times, a lot of these, one of the major, rental places basically said that you have to deal with the owners directly, and we're encouraging them to give refunds, but some are not. So those organizations, those major organizations, can't force a property owner or property management company to give the money back if the trip is canceled or you can't go because of COVID. So therefore, you have to read that contract and see what your responsibility are as a consumer. Can you cancel? And if you don't feel comfortable signing that contract or adhering to that policy, you can go to other locations, because there's so many different property managers that there's so many different contracts. But the key is that consumers feel that they're dealing with a major reputable organization, that they're protected. And unfortunately, that's not the case. You're dealing with the property owner or the property owner's management company who sets the policies and procedures and who you're signing a contract with.
Unfortunately, some people learn the hard way that it's really important to read that fine print.
Yes.
We hear often from people who use Zelle or another quick pay sort of function, and then they get burned because they just paid money to a fraudster. Why are those methods sometimes not the best way to handle payment?
Well, those cash transfer apps that you're referring to, Zelle and Venmo and others like that, they do not shoulder the responsibility as banks do. So what I mean by that is that actually they basically just transfer the money for you, and that's all they do. They don't guarantee that they're going to help you or promise you anything like that. So once you send the money, it's like opening the window and throwing the money out the window. There's no way of getting it back. So if you are dealing with a scammer and they take the money through that form of mechanism, that's your responsibility because you sent it through them. So even these sites have disclaimers on their sites telling you they're not going to be there to protect you if this is a scam or something happens. They're just a cash transfer app, and that's all it is. The safest bet is to deal with your credit card only. Even if you have the cash, your credit card is your safest payment method because you're under federal law. You have protection, 3 months to dispute the charge on your credit card. It's even better to use a credit card over debit card because if they get into your debit card or steal money from you, they're stealing your money and you'll get it back once you talk to the bank, but it can take 2-3 months. And guess what? Your money's not there because it's being held up by the bank. When you use a credit card, banks do is give you the money, put the money back into your account on a temporary basis until they do their investigation. So a lot of the scammers are starting to use those cash apps, those Zelles and the Venmos, and consumers think they're protected because they're dealing with a major organization. It's not the case, is that they clearly will tell you that they do not shoulder any responsibility. As soon as you send payment to that person, it's gone. It's just like throwing money out the window to them. There's nothing you can do once the money's gone.
What are you seeing right now that we're into 2021?
Fake websites, COVID related. We're seeing a ton of complaints where consumers are going to websites and they're actually buying products and they're not getting the products or getting inferior products. So I think so many consumers are on the computer today as opposed to going out to the traditional marketplace, to the stores, and everybody's working from home. The accessible to computers and to the website is a little bit easier for consumers. And guess what? The scammer goes there as well. So really a lot more of these last few months, especially in the March, April months, it come down a little bit, but since then, but it's still creeping up on fraudulent websites and people having a lot of difficulties with buying things online.
Particularly with Valentine's Day around the corner, what sort of fraudulent activity are you seeing for that?
It's a perennial problem, Valentine's Day. The Better Business Bureau always sees its host of complaints closer to that day and after that day from consumers who have met the love of their life, but never met them, but gave them a lot of money in return. So what I mean by that is these scammers go online and they basically make them appear that whoever you want them to be. They give fake pictures, fake profiles, and you allegedly these men and women fall in love with these people, which are scammers. And then they basically tell you, one thing is that they need money for some reason, either to visit you, or they have cancer, or they're being, sent overseas because they're with the armed forces. And they always lean on you for money, and you fall in love with these people. And guess what? You send them the money, and then you realize you've been duped when they stop talking to you. So it's always been it's a problem of 12 months a year, but it seems to increase mostly around the Valentine's Day when people are looking for love online. And guess what? The scammers are looking for scams online as well. And they want to separate you from your money as much as possible.
Right. And do you feel a year that we've had with such loneliness, unfortunately, that you might have more people fall prey to that?
I believe so, because our numbers are increasing, but also people are not going out like they used to. They're not going to the bars and the nightclubs and bowling alleys and meeting people. So they're looking online. And guess what? The scammer always goes to where the money's at or where the people are at. So the Better Business Bureau will surely see a number of romance scams. But it happens all over the world. It's not just indicative of Chicago or Northern Illinois or the U.S. Same types of complaints happen all over the world because the Better Business Bureau has done several studies on romance scams, and we see complaints from people all over the world.
We've told you about so many scams over the years, and this one in particular is the highest dollar amount we can remember. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 gone. CBS 2's Tim McNicholas explains how the promise of a discount on utilities led to a massive mistake.
Raj Shah knows bills can be high, especially in those Wooddale winters.
I've been working from home.
So when someone called offering half off his utility bills, it caught his attention. They also emailed, said they were with a group called Utility Warehouse. Shah asked why they wanted to pay for half his AT&T and Verizon bills.
Because we are trying to get more customers.
He gave them some information, and much to his surprise,
she sent me the confirmation that she paid out my bill.
He says he even checked his AT&T and Verizon accounts, and it appeared the bills really were paid. Then the caller convinced Shah to pay them 50% of the bills, a couple $100. Over the next few days, this supposed utility warehouse worker kept calling back with more offers, half off credit card bills and personal loans.
Because they already pay utilities bill, they already paid two of my credit card. I didn't think it's a scam.
Receipts show Shah made more than a dozen trips to 2 different banks in the suburbs, depositing cash by the thousands into what he thought were utility warehouse bank accounts.
Everything was paid out 1 week later. Everything, utilities bill, all my credit card, everything got reversed.
Reversed as in those supposed bill payments did not actually go through, but his payments to the so-called utility warehouse were long gone. They even convinced him to send more money to fix the problem.
Right now, I'm very frustrated.
How much money did you give to them total?
90,000.
It had nothing to do with the real utility warehouse based in the UK, and now the Wooddale Police Department is investigating. Shah's hoping they can help him get the money back for his kids' med school tuition.
I saved those money for them, so when they go to the medical school, I can help them out. Every morning when I wake up, every single morning, I stressed out.
We tried calling the scammers and they didn't answer. Shah says they made him feel comfortable on the phone because they spoke Hindi.
They are trying to get more likely Asian people, like Indian people, Pakistani people, more likely because they speak the Hindi.
And if you don't think it could happen to you, Shah tells us he's a financial analyst. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
The Wooddale Police Department tells us it's working this case, but will need help from the courts to access the bank records. Issues at home make some of us long for a vacation. So you rent that getaway home to take a break. You figure you're dealing with the online company you use and the property owner. But a South Suburban woman learned that adding a property manager to the mix can further gum things up.
Beautiful San Antonio, Texas, a vacation destination.
The house was filthy.
But when Francine Cristiano arrived with her husband and friends in February 2020,
there was mold in the refrigerator.
They realized their VRBO booking wasn't overflowing with Southern hospitality.
We were appalled because we have not had an experience like this before.
So before hitting the town, the group called to complain. Eventually, the owner came out and he didn't like what he saw either. And he understood when the friends said they wanted to stay somewhere else.
He agreed that evening to fully refund our $1,617.
It turns out the refund would have to flow through a property management company he'd hired, Plushy Host. The owner tells us they're the ones with Cristiano's money. He sent her an email in May stating, "Each time I have inquired about the status of your refund, they state that they are checking on it." Cristiano's gotten similar replies when she's reached out to Plushy Host, but no refund.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, like money was actually stolen from my purse.
The property owner says Plushy Host hasn't even paid him anything from the transaction. If they had, he says he'd just pay Cristiano back himself. He's so fed up, he stopped working with Plushy Host. By the way, that's the same company that was supposed to clean the place. They have an F rating with the Better Business Bureau because they failed to respond to other complaints from people frustrated with the service.
For us as the consumer, we know that the next time we rent a home, first of all, we're going to make sure we look at who the property manager is.
A lot's happened since that San Antonio trip. For one, Cristiano says she's out of work due to the pandemic, making those $1,600 all the more important. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
A few days after we got involved, Cristiano finally received a full refund. A VRBO spokesperson never gave us an explanation or answered our questions, and we never heard back from Plushy Host either. We've gotten viewer tips of more problems with vacation rental sites like Airbnb. A group of friends booked a stay in Mexico in February before the pandemic was spreading out of control. Then they figured they'd get a full refund or at least a credit, but Airbnb says no. Tim McNicholas shares their warning.
Beautiful Puerto Vallarta. This is where a group of friends from the north side wanted to travel in February of next year.
I mean, our flights would have left at 8 a.m. Thursday, February 4th. Not that I'm, counting or keeping track.
February of this year, from frigid Chicago, they booked their 9-day Airbnb stay for more than $3,000.
The first COVID-19 related death in Illinois.
And a whole lot changed in the weeks and months following that booking.
Unfortunately, this has just continued to drag on. There's the second surge of cases.
We all agree it's the wrong thing to do to go 9 days, CDC saying don't go.
In November, they reached out to the Airbnb host about a refund. He directed them to Airbnb. And the friends canceled the trip online, thinking that would be the best first step. Then Airbnb told them they could only get half their money back.
They're kind of playing Airbnb versus us versus the condo owner.
So the friends asked if they could just postpone the trip or get a credit for future use.
And we hit a dead end on that as well. They said we won't accommodate that either. So basically, we had no option except to accept what they were offering.
CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg says he's not surprised because refunds with Airbnb can sometimes be partly up to the host.
The idea of offering them the idea will come back in February 2022 and you get to hold their money anyway, and that's still denied, that's being disingenuous by the host. And that's a problem.
But the host isn't the only hurdle. The Friends later discovered Airbnb's COVID-19 policy says you can cancel for a full refund if the booking was before March 15th, which it was, and if the check-in is, quote, within 45 days from today, which it wasn't.
Which really doesn't make sense, being that it shortens the window for the condo owner as well to rebook that. So it's a lose-lose scenario in that situation.
In other words, they canceled too early because they didn't know about the policy.
Feel like they've purposely gone in circles with us to kind of pigeonhole us into a situation.
Someday they hope to forget about the ordeal with a little fun in the sun. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
We reached out to Airbnb to ask for more information. A spokesperson told us they can't refund or credit the cancellation because that money would now come out of the host's pockets. Rescheduling? That isn't within their power either. That's up to the host's discretion. Being out your hard-earned cash can cause so much stress, and one suburban woman knows this all too well. She says her severe anxiety caused her to panic and fall for a scam. They convinced her she was fixing a fraudulent transaction, but in reality, she was helping them steal tens of thousands of dollars.
We used to ride when we were younger.
Joanne Turek is sorting through her old clothes and keepsakes. She doesn't want to sell them, but she's trying to pick up extra funds however she can.
Like I said, I'm not very computer savvy, but I was going to try to do something like Craigslist, but I wasn't successful.
Not computer savvy, so she was surprised to get an email last month about a $500 PayPal transaction. Turek says she has severe anxiety and PTSD.
I was just a wreck.
So she immediately panicked.
I get worried because I try to be very responsible with their finances because they're so limited.
Turek called the number on the email and they transferred her to a so-called IT worker who convinced her they needed remote access to her computer to fix the problems.
I fell for that because I don't update my computer like it's supposed to.
She says the guy eventually started yelling that she'd screwed up and somehow sent tens of thousands of dollars.
I was just really intimidated, and I was even crying on the phone. He told me not to stop crying.
And to fix it, she'd have to wire transfer $29,000. Then she screwed up again, so she'd have to redo it.
It was just awful. And I can't believe I fell for it. I was so stupid.
They also convinced her to log on to her bank account to check the transactions, and she later realized they'd taken out cash advances with high interest, digging an even deeper hole.
At this time in my life, they've just ruined us. I mean, we get by, but it's tough. And disability, I mean, I'm very grateful to get that, but, you know, it's not really enough to live on.
She says she takes the blame for giving them access.
You know, if it has to go, it has to go.
But she wonders why the Baxter Credit Union allowed the cash advances.
I just don't know why that went through without any red flags popping up or Baxter contacting me.
It wasn't until later that she realized the original email was not actually from a PayPal email address. A lesson she learned the hard way. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
The past year has shown us that consumer issues can come in all shapes and sizes, from fraudsters disguised as legitimate businesses to bogus policies tying up thousands of your hard-earned dollars. While it's not always avoidable, we hope these stories can serve as warnings to help keep you and your family safe. And these are just a few of the stories Tim and Lauren have covered. There are so much more. For even more reporting on consumer issues you care about, visit cbschicago.com. Thank you so much for joining us here on CBSN Chicago. I'm Audrina Begas, and we'll be right back.